Hey everyone, Mr. MC here. This is a guide for round 7 of the 2021-2022 FIA Manufacturer Series exhibition season taking place at Willow Springs Big Willow with the Group 3 cars. Do note that this is a tuning race, so I'm going to have to tune up in a moment, but for those that do not have the Z4, I'm going to put a link in the description down below to Priano's tunes. He tunes a lot of cars, I think most cars in GT Sports, so if you need a base tune, then check the link in the description down below. But for now, let's go ahead and see what kind of tune we have cooking up for the BMW Z4. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at the car settings. First of all, I just want to give a huge thank you to AMS Dude because he helped me get this car tuned up. So I'm going to leave the description, or in the description, I'm going to leave the link to his YouTube channel because he definitely deserves a huge shout out because without his help, I wouldn't have been able to get this car tuned up because I cannot tune cars to save my own life. So let's go ahead and see what kind of tune Dude helped me out with. So BOP obviously can't be adjusted. We're under racing soft tires, brake balance, in time trial and in qualifying you can leave it at 0, and or you can move it to -1 if you really need to. But in the race, -1 feels a bit better, especially with the rear tires wearing out a bit faster with this tune. Now here comes the juicy stuff. Front of the car, bring it all the way down for the ride height. Rear of the car, bring it all the way up. This will help the car start to rotate a lot more because the Z4 is naturally pretty understeery, so you want the car to be able to rotate more. So with these settings, it'll help the car rotate more. Natural frequency, bring it all the way up for the front and rear of the car. Same goes with the anti-roll bars, bring those values all the way up. The damping ratio compression, bring it all the way down for the front of the car. Bring it all the way up for the rear of the car. For the rebound, bring it all the way down for the front and the rear of the car. Negative camber angle, 1.4 degrees for the front of the car and 4 degrees for the rear of the car. And for the toe angle, leave it at 0 degrees for the front and the rear of the car. When it comes to downforce, bring it all the way up for the front of the car. For the rear of the car, this kind of depends on your driving style. I have it at a happy medium where I can retain a bit of speed because once again, Z4 is kind of slow. So with this amount of downforce, I can retain a bit of speed while still be able to tackle the higher speed corners with a pretty fast speed. If you need more downforce, bring the value up, but you do risk losing a bit of speed. If you need more speed, bring the value down, but be careful when it comes to the higher speed turns because the lower downforce can unsettle the car. For the drivetrain, we have the LZ L5, 60 and 5, and especially with this value right here, the 60, this makes the car handle a bit more like a mid-engine wheel drive, and it'll play in part with the suspension settings. So this makes the car handle like a mid-engine wheel drive car now. So you want to, well, drive it like one, be easy on the throttle, getting on and off of it so the car doesn't get too unsettled and potentially spin you out. So with the transmission, what you want to do first is to move the top speed auto set all the way down. So 124 miles per hour or 200 kilometers per hour for those using the metric units. Then you want to move this value, the final gear values, to 2.450, and then you can start to copy the gear ratios for first to 6 gears. So you can pretty much just copy these numbers on the left and you should be good to go. So with all this, the Z4 should be a bit faster now, should have a bit more acceleration compared to its stock setup. And especially with these settings right here, the Z4 will be able to turn in a lot more now. It'll actually feel really good to drive here at Big Willow. But as I mentioned before, it does drive a bit more like a mid-engine wheel drive car. So you do need to be a bit more careful about how you drive the car. You need to be smooth with the inputs so you don't end up spinning out and end up building sandcastles. But now let's go ahead and take a look at the lap guide. Starting from the very final turn, just be a little careful going through this turn. Try to get as close as you can to the apex and get ready for the car to want to step out a little bit. But anyways, bring yourself towards the right side of the track. You're braking before the 50-meter board, before the wall on the left end. So I'll show you exactly where I start to brake. Quick burst of braking, but try to be as smooth as you can from the braking to the throttle. For this right turn, all you need to do is do a little lift off of the throttle. Just trying to be a little careful, don't go out too wide. Bring yourself towards the right and you're braking before the 50-meter board, before the little cliff on the left starts. So brake hard for a short moment. Slowly transition over from the braking to the throttle. Do lots of throttle control. Just trying to retain a little bit of throttle to keep the car nice and stable. And then brake before the curb on the right end. Very quick, strong burst of braking needed here. Slowly transition over to the throttle. And then we're going to be going flat out for a while. Here is also the only penalty serving zone. It's on the back straight. Now bring us up towards the left side of the track. And you're going to look for the 150-meter board, as that's where you kind of want to start to get ready to just lift off of throttle and slowly turn in some more. So just as you're pointing away from the red signs, that's where you lift off of throttle, then slam on the throttle, try to get as close as you can to the apex, and you are good to go. Also, there's actually 2 penalty serving zones. I just realized that. But anyways, let's go on over to the qualifying section of the guide, where you're going to have 5 minutes to try to get the best qualifying time possible. The host had 6 minutes, so we could change tires if we needed to, but during the real FIA race, you'll only have 5 minutes. So you'll end up getting 3 to 4 chances to try to get the best qualifying time possible. 4 chances is if you get really lucky and you happen to be at the front of the pit stop and you get out of the pit stop first. So I just want to point that out there. So assume that you only have 3 chances to try to get the best qualifying time possible. If you're in a lower pit lobby, qualify by yourself, qualify far away from everyone else, because chances are some people may not even realize that this is a tuning race. They may be running a stock tune and their car is going to perform very poorly, or some people may even have a completely wrong tune and their car is going to perform poorly. So qualify by yourself in the lower split lobbies. Higher split lobbies, you can do either or. Take advantage of slipstream and hope that the car in front of you has the right tune, or qualify by yourself so you don't have to worry if the car in front has a wrong tune. Personally, for me, I think qualifying by yourself is better. But anyways, let's go ahead and take a look at the race strategy. So we're doing 20 laps at Willow Springs Big Willow with the Group 3 cars. Fuel is a ×2, so fuel is not an issue, but the tire wear is a ×4, and tire wear is a bit of an issue. We have both the racing soft and medium tires to work with, and both tires are required. So you do need to use both tire compounds so you don't get a 1 minute penalty after the race ends. And during your first lap of the race, or whenever you're starting a new stint, just be careful when you're driving the car on the first lap, because the tires are going to be cold, so it's going to make the car want to slide around a lot more, especially through this turn. Like, yeah, my BMW just decided to do a little bit of a slide right there because of the cold tires. So just drive a lot more carefully, try to be a lot smoother on your inputs during your first lap so you don't end up building sandcastles very early on. In terms of how long the racing soft tires can last, it'll depend on your driving style, the car that you're using, and the tune that you have, but generally speaking, they can last up to 11 laps, although you may see some people pitting in to change from the soft tires as early as lap 9 or lap 10. And because lap 10 is the halfway point of the race, you may see more people pitting in at that time. And of course, if you're starting in the very front, you can start under racing soft tires to try to get away from everyone else. But if you're starting closer towards the middle or the back, you can start under racing medium tires so you can get the slower tire compound out of the way. What you're seeing right now is me testing out the one stop. You can actually see how the tire wear is. It kind of comes up at you really fast and your pace will noticeably slow down, especially on the higher speed sections of the track. And you just want to be a little more careful about how you're driving once the tire wear starts to kick in, because any little mistake can be greatly exaggerated, especially down here, and you may end up spinning out or you may end up building sandcastles once again. So let's go ahead and fast forward on over to the pit stop. It is just after the very last turn on the left side, pitting in at the end of lap 10 to switch on over to the racing medium tires. Fuel, not an issue at all. You're just going in for a tire change. Interestingly, the pit loss here at Big Willow is around 11.5 seconds, so it's a little lower in terms of pit loss compared to the other tracks here in Gran Turismo Sport, but the pit loss is still a little too long to justify a 2-stop. If this race was just a little bit longer, and I'd say around 2 to 3 laps longer, or if the pit loss was around 2 to 3 seconds shorter, then that's where a 2-stop would have been much more viable, or even it would have been the strategy to choose. And we'll just take a quick look at the very end of the race. So lap 20 on the racing medium tires, is trying to be really careful to here because the racing medium tires have less grip and there already is a bit of tire wear. As the car wants to step out a little bit, yeah, you just got to be really careful with this part of the track, the rabbit's ear. You just want to be really careful, try to keep the car under your control. And you can actually see on the right side of the video or the screen that the lap time difference between the racing soft and medium tires is not that big. It's around half a second to just under a second. It'll obviously go a little over a second once the racing medium tires start to wear out. So with the one stop going 10 soft and 10 medium, I'm going to end up getting a 23 minutes and 33 seconds. This is actually a bit of a shorter manufacturer race. But anyways, 23 minutes and 33 seconds is a time to beat. So let's go ahead and quickly try out the 2-stop and see how this goes. So in this one, I'm going to do 9 laps on the soft tires, another 9 laps on the soft tires, which then leaves 2 laps on the racing medium tires. So here we go. We're switching over to a new set of racing soft tires. And while the racing soft tires, it's obviously faster, I think with this race just being a little too short, it's not going to give you enough time to make the 2-stop work. It's about 4 seconds slower, but because the time difference between a 1 and 2-stop is 4 seconds, there could be scenarios where it is possible to get away with a 2-stop. So let's say the 1-stoppers start to fight a lot and you're doing a 2-stop, you get an undercut on them and you manage to find yourself in clean air, not battling with anyone for the longest time, then that's where a 2-stop can potentially work. But again, it kind of needs to rely on everyone else fighting with each other or building sandcastles. So the 2-stop is more or less a huge gamble. It is a good way to kind of help increase your chances of you staying on the track and not having to deal with the tire wear, because tire wear can get pretty nasty here. And yeah, the 2-stop, 4 seconds slower with a 23 minutes and 37 seconds. It's not the fastest one, but it's probably the safest option out there. But anyways, that is pretty much it for this guide. Once again, I'm going to leave Amos Dude's YouTube channel and Priano's tunes in the description down below. please check them out because they have some really good tunes and they serve as a really good base for your setup if you do intend on doing this race. But that's all for me. Thank you guys for the support. Thank you to Playseat for supporting the channel as well. This is Mr. MCA wishing you a good race, and I'll see you in the next video.